She's the Director of University Marketing and Communication, and she is in our studio right now. Carrie Harris Phillips is on the spotlight next. From the beautiful Olathe building in downtown Russellville, we welcome you into the spotlight as part of Arkansas Tech Week. Thanks so much for joining us. My name is Drew Brent. If you're in the market to buy or sell your home, give us a call today. It's 479-968-5668, or you can cruise on over to russellvilleliving.com. One of our fine agents is always ready, willing, and able to serve you. Give us a call today. It's 479-968-5668. Today's guest on the spotlight, easy for me to say, as part of Arkansas Tech Week, is a guest I'm honored to have. She's taught me more about broadcasting than most. This is Carrie Harris Phillips. Carrie, I'm so happy you're here. Thanks for being here.
I am so excited. Thank you for having me. And as we were catching up before we started, we were talking about all of our journalism days and how much fun we had at Arkansas Tech when we were students. So it's good to reconnect and get to be on the show today.
We can do the nostalgic route. We can talk about that. We can talk about how Arkansas Tech really impacted both of our lives, because no question that we would not be on the career trajectory that we are both on had it not been for those days at Arkansas Tech. Let's dive into that a little bit. The first part of your journey was journalism. Now you are the Director of University Marketing and Communications. Just how big of an impact has Arkansas Tech had on your life?
Well, I grew up here in Russellville. My dad was actually a professor at Arkansas Tech. And so growing up, to be honest, I didn't want to go to Arkansas Tech because I was so terrified that I would be known as Dr. Harris's daughter.
Right.
And so I was looking for somewhere else to go. And as I was looking, I was really drawn to the journalism program. It offered a great opportunity to get in there as a freshman and learn and get to use the equipment and get to do all of these things and really build my knowledge and my skill set. And so I'm so thankful that I chose that path, because had I gone to any other institution, I don't know that I would have gotten that hands-on experience, gotten to learn what it means to be an active community member. And then I also got to be engaged on campus. I was in student government, student activities board. I was involved in campus ministries. I was in the band. So I was in all sorts of activities, but I don't know that I could have done all of those at any other institution. And so I'm so grateful for my journey at Arkansas Tech, and then to now have the opportunity to work for my alma mater is just the most special thing every day. I'm so thankful for that opportunity.
I want to touch on something that you said in your previous answer. You said, I wouldn't have had the opportunity to get hands-on as a freshman. I have not thought about that aspect in years, but as freshmen in the journalism department, we were right in the big middle of it, just like everyone else. And it seems to me that freshmen at Arkansas Tech have more of those opportunities just because of the way the institution is set up. Talk about that a little bit.
Absolutely. So part of what we believe at Arkansas Tech is that students learn by doing. Classroom knowledge is so incredibly important, but so is an internship, so is learning something in a lab, so is getting to produce your own television station show.
Yeah.
The very first interview I ever did here in Russellville, and I told this to someone recently, I recorded, I was so proud of it, and I didn't have any kind of sound on the entire thing. And so I had to call the gentleman back and go back and redo that. But those are the experiences, because that taught me in that moment, always check X, Y, Z to make sure that it's going to work correctly. But I think so many things we learn and we connect and we build better relationships, we build better networks, we build better learning when we have the opportunity to practice the things that you're learning in the classroom. And that's really important to Arkansas Tech and to our programs.
Did you tell that audio story just now? Because I literally just stopped our interview and as we're recording and checked the audio. Is that what brought that to mind? Is that how that happened?
Yes.
I was like, oh, okay. Little TV magic there, folks. I find it fascinating because the people that I've talked to from Tech during this week have all said basically the same thing. You're going to learn more by doing, and you're going to learn more through community. Arkansas Tech creates its own real community, doesn't it? And it's something special.
It absolutely is. One of the things that my team and I have the opportunity to do is really try to tell the Arkansas Tech story. And we center that around three main parts. And one of those is that supportive community. You know, we hear stories all the time at ATU of faculty and staff who go above and beyond to help a student. I was listening to an edited interview this morning and was talking about someone who was in a class that wasn't their strong suit and how that professor offered additional tutoring just to help that student because they saw that student was putting forth the effort, but it was in an area maybe they didn't have quite the same aptitude as other students. And so I think that supportive environment, whether that's always an open door to hear a faculty member, you know, and meet with a professor, or it's getting to work on campus and an on-campus job and having those opportunities, that community starts the moment a student steps on campus for even a tour or coming to campus to learn more about the university. And we hope that it always extends to their time as an alum.
That culture has been there for a long time too, by the way. I'll never not tell the story. I think I've even told it this week as part of Tech Week. My freshman year, my very first class was with Dr. David Kruger, rest in peace. And he terrified me because of just how knowledgeable he was, just how good he was. It was the night before our first exam, and my high school friend and I were studying because we were in the same class. And we weren't there. We were hitting a roadblock. So we just shot in the dark. We called him at home just to see if maybe he'll answer our question. And he spent an hour and a half on the phone with us until we understood the material and aced it. This is not something that's just isolated to one or two professors. This is the culture, and it has been for a long time.
So I can tell you that too. Growing up, being a professor's daughter, our phone number was always listed in the phone book. And I learned from a very first young age that, you know, if I was on the phone as a teenager, what teenager doesn't want to talk on the phone?
Sure.
But I learned that when it was exam nights or right leading up to exams, I learned I had to limit my phone calls because there might be students who needed to reach out. My dad put his phone number in the syllabus. That's just who Arkansas Tech is we want to be that place that students succeed and give them every tool, even if it's calling the professor at 9:30 the night before a test, because I've picked up the phone when that's happened. And, you know, my dad always encouraged that. And I think that's just part of who Arkansas Tech is, that they do go above and beyond for students.
You know, I always found it too when I talk to professors about this. Those professors who do that really enjoy it. They have teaching in their heart. Susan West we had on earlier this week, and she said, if you don't love students, if you don't have a heart for students, you cannot do this correctly. Do you agree with that assessment?
110%. My dad loved the students. He firmly believed the students were why he was here. I'll be the first to share. My dad grew up, his father, my grandfather, only had a middle school education, so my dad was a first generation student. My dad was incredibly had great common sense, but academically wasn't the best student. And so I think he really related to students who maybe didn't have a great background academically or didn't have the same resources as other students. And I think he saw in those students, he saw himself. And, you know, he was told in high school, like, unfortunately, some of our students are, that they'll never be successful. Yeah. And here he is, he has a master's and a doctoral degree, and was a university professor, so he broke that stereotype that was set for him. And so I think he saw that in other students and always went above and beyond to try to help and do whatever he could to give students that same moment. And that was his favorite instance, is when he saw that aha moment and that light bulb of where a student believed in themselves, that they could do what he always saw them capable of.
You know, it's funny you say that, because you can see a passion almost start. You know, you can see that pilot light kick on. I was first generation college on my mom's side, and now when I have the opportunity to go and speak at the journalism department, they let me in 3 times a year. Carrie, can you believe that?
I am impressed.
I know, that's up from the 2 times that I had previously. So I'm up 3, and you talk to these journalism students, and they're all young and fresh faced. You know the type, you know how we were, and you get to have those moments where it finally clicks as to, hey, this is why you're here. You're not just here. The diploma is the byproduct. It's not the goal. The goal is to really be educated, and the diploma signifies that, but it's not the end game. Does that make sense? I mean, because there's so much more to education and higher education than just class and diploma. What I found, especially in talking to the professors and Sam Straisner particularly this week, it's the entire experience. Tech does that really well.
I absolutely agree. I think the entire collegiate journey is something that's really important. I think one of the things that I hope that we're able to do, and we can use journalism as an example. If you think back, the camera equipment that we learned to use several years ago, we're not going to talk about
Let's not talk about how long that was.
How long, we're not going to go there. But that equipment may be obsolete. But the process of how to do an interview, how to talk to someone, how to communicate, those skills are going to be valuable for life. And so I hope that that's what we're able to do as educators at a university setting, is to give students the skills that help them to be successful, but then also give them the ability to continue to learn, to continue to grow, and then those general kind of communication, critical thinking skills that will last them for a lifetime.
We're talking to Carrie Phillips here on the Spotlight as part of Arkansas Tech Week. Carrie and I go way back. We're going to talk about that here coming up right after this break. You're watching the Spotlight on Olathe Realty Live.
We see you. Your incredible potential and willpower set you apart. You're first to take that leap of faith. First to get to work. First to solve the problem. No burden should be carried alone. We'll be there. Every step, day, challenge. First is your destiny. We get it because first is who we are.
Welcome back into the Spotlight presented by Olathe Realty Live. We are talking to Carrie Phillips as part of Arkansas Tech Week. Carrie, I talked about at the top of the show how much of an honor this is for me to have you on here, just because you were one of my mentors in the journalism department. Now, you were a mentor in the fact that you did take the time to help me. We went on a crazy road trip chasing down the Secretary of State of the United States.
We did.
That's part of the college experience too. So I wanted to talk a little bit about our journalism journey, just because the totality of the college experience is some of those experiences. We went to find Hillary Clinton while she was running for president.
We did.
Let's talk about that.
Okay, so first off, I feel like it's important to say that we went into that. We called and gotten the credentialing, which they said any media company or entity was able to do. So, my sentiment was, well, they didn't say I couldn't go, so let's show up and see what happens. So we followed the credentialing process, went through all of that, and we met at the television station early that morning, got in my car, and away we went when she was speaking at a rally in North Little Rock. And so we got there, and I remember you were a little timid, and you were like, can we set up here? And I was like, we sure can. Yeah. And, we ended up having a better feed location than CNN that day. And, for some young 20-something, 18-something-year-olds that we were at that time, I remember coming home thinking, man, we have just changed the face of journalism for our community, and how cool it was to have that moment.
I thought the same thing. I didn't think necessarily we'd change the face of journalism. My thought was, there was no way that two college students should have ever been able to get that close, and yet we did. And the story about Tech TV is interesting too, because it is the grander story of Arkansas Tech. In 2006, Arkansas Tech, not any of the Little Rock stations, but Arkansas Tech was the first media outlet to talk to Governor Beebe after his reelection. Arkansas Tech had John Bozeman, had every mayoral candidate. Arkansas Tech had these were these students who were really pulling things off. And I think this is a good transition to a conversation about alumni. There are people who went from that department and every department at Tech who are in major positions of power. I'm tempted to tell the story about J.R. Davis now, who has worked at the White House, and that was not something I saw when we were in school, but really and truly, we've got a lot of really, really successful alum.
We absolutely do. And I think that just shows the power of an ATU education, the power of hard work, which we know our students do. And I think it shows the power of, being willing to to be there and to strike when opportunity does. You know, that day we were there and we saw the perfect camera shot and nobody else was in it. So we said, that's going to be
ours.
Tech TV's. And,
Yeah.
you know, I think that's something that if you can learn to do that in life, I think that's going to make you successful and help you to continue that success.
I do remember that day when we set up, I was just kind of looking around going, somebody's going to make us move, right? I mean, if I were them, I'd make us move. And nobody did.
Yeah.
That was a nice life lesson. Thanks for that. Fun day too. I will say this about the folks who graduate from Arkansas Tech. There is a specific and particular pride coming
Absolutely.
from ATU. Scott Covert comes to mind,
Mhm.
Channel 11, a buddy of mine, and he's done a great job as a meteorologist at Channel 11, but he is particularly proud of being a Wonder Boy. I've noticed that too about our alumni. Have you seen that?
I have, absolutely. I think that's something that I think Arkansas Tech has figured out who Arkansas Tech is. And so I think when our students become alums, they get to go out and tell that story time and time again. And they're doing great things. They're being incredibly successful. But I think it goes back to the ability and that moment of having somebody that believed in them. And I think that's what Arkansas Tech is for a lot of our students, especially those first-gen students who are maybe the first to think, I can do this, I can change my life's trajectory. And Arkansas Tech gives them that place in that space.
Is when you say Arkansas Tech has figured out who it is that who it is? The people who believe in you?
I think Arkansas Tech is a lot of incredible things. I think it boils down to kind of three main things. And one of those is we care immensely. We've already talked about that. That is just who we are. We're not afraid of hard work. We are a university and a people that we roll up our sleeves, we go to work, we do what needs to get done. You know, when we wanted to go cover that election show and wanted to create that, we said, we're going to do it and we're going to make it happen. And we just went to work.
And dominated.
Yes, that
And we
too.
dominated.
No competitive spirit there.
Zero.
And then I think we say, why can't we do things? So I think we have a little bit of innovation in us, you know, to say, hey, this is what needs to happen. This would be good for our students to learn. This would be a good hands-on experience. You know, we went to our journalism professor and said, we want to do this. And he looked at us and said, that's a great idea. Do it.
Go for it. Yeah.
And, you know, got out of our way and let us create something that lasted for several years as a legacy that we started. But I think that's because the university gave us the space to try things. And there were times that we tried things in that journalism station that we failed, quite frankly, and that's okay too.
I can't remember a single one of those things. Not one time do I remember anything failing.
Anything going wrong?
Oh, no, I can remember several times, but I don't really want to talk about that part.
Next question.
Yeah, and moving right along, plead the fifth. You know, I find it interesting that you say that the university kind of got out of our way a little bit, and that's an interesting way of saying it, because so much of higher ed, from what I'm noticing, is yes, classroom instruction, yes, there is the homework, but there is that thought of innovation. When we were in the journalism department, and I don't know that this is true of every department, but I would like to think that it is, there was, at least when we were there was a bit of a little brother complex. We competed for ACMAs, we competed against every university in the state that had a journalism department, and I wanted to beat everyone all the time. Do you think that mentality is still there a little bit? Not so much little brother, but hey, I want to come out swinging. We want to be the best.
I think that mentality absolutely exists. I see that as kind of this competitive tenacity that our students have. So that A, they know how to work hard, but B, a lot of our students, not everything is handed to them in life. And so they come out with this, I can do just as much as anybody else can do. And I think that is what sets our students apart, is sometimes doing that is a lot of hard work, and our students are always willing to do that, and they have that competitive spirit. I know I sure do. You know, I all the time, like, imitation is the best form of flattery, and so, you know, if somebody else does something and we started that, I perceive that as a compliment, and I think that's where that comes from, is that kind of competitive.
Well, where do you think the name for this show came from?
Ooh, I mean, imitation is the best form of flattery.
We won't talk about that, but where do you think that name came from? I want to hit on something that you said too. The students that are going to Arkansas Tech have a particular work ethic. Sam Strassner mentioned this in our interview as well, that there was there's a demographic of students here that that really kind of flock to Arkansas Tech because of its almost rural nature. So you see a lot of first generation college kids. You see a lot of blue collar kids, and there's a particular tenacity among these kids because they've grown up having to fight, having to claw, having to scratch. Um, does that set them up for success long term, you think?
100%. I think that ability to know how to work hard and to know that sometimes it feels like the deck is stacked against you. I think if you're used to having to feel that way, then it's going to force you to have that innovative thinking because the regular process that everybody else may follow may not work for you. So it's going to force you to think creatively. It's going to force you to have to work hard. It's going to force you to really embrace when people are supportive and there to help you out because they've been there too. So I think that's part of what sets Arkansas Tech apart is that ability to have to sometimes work a little hard because life isn't as fair as we'd like it to be.
Let's talk about demographics. We see all shapes, sizes, people at Arkansas Tech. It's not just a local rural university. This university is represented by dozens of countries from around the world.
Yes, absolutely. You know, we serve Arkansas students and we're really proud of that. But I think it's also important to talk about we serve students from across the country, we serve students from across the world, and we learn from each other. I think that's part of what makes that experience really cool. I remember having some international students in the journalism department and talking with them and understanding and learning their processes and learning how they approach things. Here recently, they had a Fulbright scholar from Egypt who was in the journalism program. Wow. And how cool was it for her to have talked about being in Egypt in 2011 and 2012 when there was a lot going on there and how that impacted her journalism career. That's an experience that our students got because of that international student. And I think that's such a cool exchange of concepts and ideas and understanding.
So much of academia, too, is that right there. The conversation, the free exchange of ideas, and that is really sort of been lost nationally in the national conversation. Is that something that you feel is as much a part of higher ed as anything else, just the ability to conversate?
I think conversation is so important. You know, that's where we learn from each other. You know, I remember being back in our TV days, you and I had some very heated conversations and and you're laughing because we completely disagreed on some things. But I think at the end, we both, while we probably still disagree on some things.
Sure.
You were one of those people that if I picked up the phone and I said, hey, Drew, I'm having an issue, I need something, you would be one of those people that I have no doubt would respond. And I think that ability to be able to separate issues from people is so tough these days. And I think it's something that I hope our students are able to learn and see that, you know, having a conversation with somebody and having a difference of an opinion on an idea or a belief doesn't make the person bad. It just makes the person different. And that's okay.
I love the fact that you said that because there was more learning that happened in a lot of those conversations when we were convinced that the other one was wrong. but the cool part about that is that I ended up taking a lot of what it is that you said and adapting that. I was never going to tell you that, by the way. I was never going to actually admit that I did any of that.
You heard it here, folks.
Yeah, I mean, I just said it on TV, great. But, you know, but so much of that tech experience was, you know, that community, and I can't get past that. I really want to convey that to the folks who are watching, that the community side of Arkansas Tech is so important. And speaking on that, another question that I had was, you know, there's always seemed to be, especially when we were in school, Arkansas Tech was almost like an island from Russellville. It really felt like once you left the campus, now you were entering Russellville, and then once I'm starting to see more of a marriage between the two. I'm certain that that's intentional. What is Marcom doing to try to help, you know, make those two things more aligned?
I think you're absolutely right, and that makes me excited to hear that you're starting to pick up on that. You know, part of what makes a college campus is the town in which it resides, and you know, Russellville has shown love for Arkansas Tech. I don't know if you've read the history book, but the reason that Russellville ended up with Arkansas Tech is different cities bid on it. and Russellville had the winning bid, and part of that winning bid was they donated free water for a certain amount of time. So a little fun history fact, if you didn't have that.
Free water.
Free water was a good thing.
Outstanding, yes.
But I think part of that is they need each other. Russellville needs ATU graduates to keep the community thriving. And I'm sure you certainly want this from your lens of wanting people to stay here after they graduate.
Sure.
But I think as well that the tech students need the community. They need a place to feel where they can go to worship, where they can go to build connections, where they can have internships, where they can have opportunities, and even do fun things. We have a great art walk. We have March to May, paint the town green and gold. There are so many fun things that happen that our students can be part of. And so I think that's a really good opportunity to build those connections there.
All right, she said something that I'm going to hit on right after this timeout. More Spotlight as part of Arkansas Tech Week when we come back. Welcome back into the Spotlight, presented by Alathus Realty Live. If you're in the market to buy or sell your home, give us a call today. It's 479-968-5668 or cruise on over to RussellvilleLiving.com. It's part of Arkansas Tech Week here on the Spotlight. We have Carrie, Phillips, one of my dear friends here. You said something before the break. I want to hit on this. Tech graduates and tech students want a place to live and to thrive, and I think that is true of the student experience. But over and over, as I talk to city officials and I talk to the economists of the area, they all say the same thing. If we want Russellville to thrive, we've got to keep tech graduates here. Thus far, we've done an okay job on that. What can we do better to keep tech students here?
That's a great question. I think one of the things we've learned from the pandemic, out of all of those life lessons that we all walk away with, is I think we've learned that quality of life is really important. People, especially now with the ability to, in a lot of ways, work from home, work remotely, people want to be where they have activities and opportunities and the great outdoors or whatever it is that speaks to them. The location of being place-bound by a job is less important than it ever has been. And so I think if we want to keep people here, I think we've got to be working to attract those kinds of jobs that allow them that flexibility. But I think we've got to make sure that we're keeping our great, we have such great outdoor assets. We have such a great community. I think really investing in those things and keeping those things up. We've done a lot of great work with our trails and our bikes. We've got so many great things happening. I think really celebrating those and continuing to grow those is the way to do it, because if people can live anywhere to do their job, we want them to be choosing here.
As far as departments at Arkansas Tech who seem to be thriving or churning out the most graduates, I know you don't have the numbers in front of you.
I don't, yeah.
But walk me through how successful Arkansas Tech as a whole is as far as churning out graduates.
Absolutely. So we really focus a lot on all of our programs, but as you know, we're known for so many. We've got a great music program that is renowned. Pre-pandemic, both our band and our choir were invited the same year to perform at Carnegie Hall in New York, which is amazing and impressive. So I think our music programs are a great storied program. We have so many of our STEM fields, nursing, biology, chemistry, physics. I don't want to start naming because I'm going to leave somebody out.
Exactly. Sure.
But there are so many of those types of programs. We also have some really unique programs. We have a great emergency management program that we were the first in the world to be accredited. That program was started here by James Lee Witt. And so I think that speaks.
Former FEMA director.
Yes, absolutely. And so I think that kind of program has a great history here. We have a fisheries and wildlife program. What better place to have a fisheries and wildlife program than in this area? Talk about an outdoor lab. You've got tons of opportunities. So we have so many really great programs, whether they, some of those programs may not have tons and tons of students, but they are known and recognized in their field. And I think that's something that we're really proud of.
I have to say that I'm particularly proud of the Marcom department at Arkansas Tech University. Wow, what an incredible group of people. You've got yourself, you've got Ryan Taylor. Talk about the Marcom department a little bit and kind of what it is that you're doing.
Absolutely. It's the best team. Our job is to tell the Arkansas Tech University story, and we do that in a lot of different ways. We're a centralized office, so that means every day is a little different. One day we're working on something for our alumni office for them to be able to communicate with alums. And the next day we're designing a website. And then an hour later, we may be working on a print piece or a video for our admissions office. So every day is different. Every challenge is different. But I think at the root, it's all the same, and it's all wanting to position and tell Arkansas Tech's story to people that we want to care about it as much as we do.
What is the Arkansas Tech story, Carrie?
So I think the Arkansas Tech story is a story of being your best self, making every day better than the last, trying to make the state a better place than when you left it the day before, doing your best, never giving up. We talk about that fight on spirit and that idea of never settle. I think that's really who we are, is show up, do the work, and be the best version of yourself and try to make the world a better place.
Be the best version of yourself. Now, Carrie, I want to hit on that a little bit because you are clearly the best version of yourself right now. But when you were growing up, we're going to shift gears to the Carrie side now.
Oh, bless. Here it goes.
Was this where you thought you were going?
No. Growing up, I stumbled in this career. This is my second career, and it's exactly where I'm supposed to be. I love marketing. I'm certified by the American Marketing Association. I love it. That's not where I thought life would take me. And I guess that goes back to that whole idea of be ready when opportunity presents itself. But no, so growing up, fun fact, when I was about 9 or 10, I'm so thankful for my dad. He was what I call the realist in my life. My mom is my greatest cheerleader. I could say I'm going to do anything. It doesn't matter what it is. And she'd be like, yes, gung-ho, let's do it.
Right.
My dad was like, Carrie, have you thought about?
Right.
And I need that because
yin and yang, but balance.
Right. And so I came home at probably 7, 8, 9 years old, and I said, Daddy, I'm going to be a meteorologist. And he looked at me kind of the way you're looking at me and trying not to laugh and said, Carrie, that's great. I'll support you in that. But you do realize you don't like storms. Like, let's talk about this. Is it that you like to be on TV? You don't like storms and you don't like math. Like, these are two fundamental problems with being a meteorologist. But I needed that in my life. And he said, if that's what you want to do, we'll figure out a way and we'll work on it, but we need to start that process now. And then I thought about it a little bit and changed my mind. But yeah, definitely didn't see this.
I want to expound on that in a minute. I'm not laughing because of the thought of you being a meteorologist. I wish I'd have known this when we were in school together. I had the exact, almost verbatim conversation with my parents.
What?
I told my dad that I wanted to be a meteorologist, but I also did not like storms, and I still to this day detest math. And so that conversation actually blossomed up, okay, so what is it about meteorology that you like? And it turned out it was the TV side. Now here's you a little Drew Brent fun fact.
Ooh, okay.
Right, since we're all sharing.
Right.
When kids were going to bed and you'd have to, pop in like the Barney the Dinosaur tape, which was, big when we were tiny and little. My mom and dad both recorded episodes of 2020, and I would watch episodes of 2020 from the time that I was 3 till about 7, because I was such a news television junkie. Hugh Downs. I wanted to be Hugh Downs, and I was Hugh Downs for Halloween.
I love that. Oh my goodness, that's hilarious.
So
I love that.
We both started out trying to be in meteorology.
There you go.
But going back to that conversation, was it that you found out, hey, I just want to be on TV, or I'm fascinated by the television side, or what drove you to meteorology at first? I
still to this day have no idea. This is the same child, though, that I also told my dad that I wanted to be on the $1 bill as the first female president as a 5-year-old, because I thought I had better hair than George Washington. So, there's a little bit of...
Well, there's no disputing that.
Right? But that was also the logic that he was dealing with in that moment. But, thankfully, he just encouraged me to try different things and see what fit. And so along the way, I kind of figured out I really liked the process. I love the idea of crafting a story, of, thinking about an unexpected angle that somebody may not hear, or trying to, talk to somebody and learn a little bit more about them than what they just tell you at the first. And I think that's what I really kind of eventually figured out, what I was into. I don't know how I equated that to meteorology, but somehow we connected that.
I think maybe meteorology was our first real taste of what TV looked like.
Could be.
Because the only time that I remember the TV staying on as a kid was when, that little weather buzzer was going off, and then, you had Tom Bonner or Barry Brandt or whomever else on TV, and we were fixated on that because there was no internet. I know, we're old. There was no internet. There wasn't a cell phone, so that was our only source of information. So maybe we were fixated on that portion of it.
That's a good thought.
When did you land on journalism?
I would say sometime in high school. So my junior year of high school, I was eligible to be on the yearbook staff. And so I did that, and we got to write a little bit, and I really enjoyed that. And then my senior year, I was the editor of our yearbook here in Russellville. And so I learned a lot of leadership lessons then, and I was a terrible leader, but I learned, true story, but I learned a lot about how to put things together. And I think that process side I was really into, and then really wanted to do the TV side. And I remember I kept bugging the director. We had the Arkansas Scholastic Press Association Awards, and I kept asking, like, can I please compete in the TV ones? Like, I'll pay for it. Like, I just want to do this. Can I please do it? And she kept saying, well, you're not a TV program. Like, you're the yearbook editor. Why are you wanting to do the TV? But I think my grit showed up, and I just kept bugging her, and eventually she let me do it. And I actually won the on-camera interview award. First place in the state that year.
Of course you did.
Right.
Who'd you interview?
It was a pretend interview, but I think what set me apart is it was a thing about basketball, and it was a team that had won, made it to the finals the 2 years before, and then the third year they actually won it, and you had to interview the star player. And so they had somebody stand in to be the star player that you would be interviewing. And so I think what set me apart is I asked the question, what in those 2 years of failures did you learn that helped you succeed on the third time? And then does that make it a little sweeter? And I think that question is probably a different angle than anybody else took in the conversation.
Yeah. I've been listening a lot to some podcasts with Conan O'Brien. I love Conan O'Brien, but I find that that there is some parallels between successful journalism, successful interviews, and successful stand-up comedians, and here's why. And I'll tell you why I've found this. Anybody can tell a joke, all right? It's not the joke that's funny. It's the delivery.
Oh,
In the same way, anybody can ask the same cookie cutter questions, but it takes someone who has, the insight to why that might happen, and then the delivery of that. So, I mean, if I ask you the basic who, what, when, where, why, how, everybody can do that. But it takes this special question of, hey, why did you do this, and how did that affect you? There's the story.
I think you're onto something.
There's some weird parallels there. Maybe I'll write a book at some point. I'm not sure.
I want an autograph copy.
You don't?
Yes, I do.
Really?
If you write a book, I want an autograph copy.
Outstanding. You can have one.
Thanks. Do you have a special page you'll sign on?
Yeah. Which page would you like?
My dad always signed on 22.
Why?
I have no idea, but it was always page 22.
I'll probably do 42 since it's the answer to everything.
There you go.
Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, another nerd thing that we're going to bring out.
Okay. Oh, bless.
You wound up at Arkansas Tech as a journalism student.
Mm-hmm.
How'd that happen?
I toured and really liked the program, and they offered me a scholarship. I very much wanted the classic college experience, and I had a scholarship that would allow me to live on campus. And I said, I'm doing it, and showed up.
Okay. That was the story on that.
That's the story.
I want to talk a little bit about Anthony Caton.
Yeah.
In my mind, he's kingmaker in a lot of ways. And I don't know that very many people know this. But from about 2002 to 2010, I'm not sure that there was anybody in Arkansas television who had a greater behind-the-scenes influence than he did, with as many people as he put in Little Rock television. Another testament, by the way, to Arkansas Tech. How big of an influence was Caton on you?
So I had the best of both worlds. I was there when there was a previous director of broadcasting, and then I got to be
So
under.
you were a John Gale guy,
Mhm.
John Gale 82.
Yeah,
Okay.
he was there my first year and a half, and then Anthony Caton came in my last year and a half. So I got to see two very different leadership styles, but I kind of feel like I got the best of both worlds because I got to learn from both of them, and they both taught me incredible things. I remember John Gale told me, I was like, I want to be, I want to work in London and work for a bureau and all. And he said, well, go where a story is. He said, if there's the Weber's Falls bridge had just happened. He said, if something like that happens, you got to be willing to get in the car and go and do what you need to do. And then, Anthony Caton taught me so many things about how, you need to be able to expect the unexpected. And so that idea of always being prepared for a worst case scenario, whether that's an extra battery or
two extra batteries.
Or even, I was doing an interview for my master's thesis, and thankfully he had taught me that lesson. And it was an interview in Dallas, and there was an oil issue that day on one of the major highways, and so it was right at rush hour in downtown Dallas. I was doing this interview, and the lady came in and she said, I know we had this interview, I know we scheduled it 3 weeks ago, but there's breaking news, you've got 10 minutes, let's go. And so my entire master's interview was cut to about 10 minutes. And so thankfully he had taught me how to be prepared and know my questions inside and out so that I could immediately flip to what things are most important. Like, let's cut the pleasantries. Let's get to the real stuff I need to know.
All right. Stay tuned. Right after this, we're going to wrap up with Carrie Harris Phillips. We're going to nerd out on TV after this. Don't go anywhere. Back here on the Spotlight as part of Arkansas Tech Week. Of course, that's presented to you by Olympus Realty. If you are in the market to buy or sell your home, give us a call today. It's 479-968-5668 or cruise on over to RussellvilleLiving.com. Back here with Carrie Harris Phillips as part of Arkansas Tech Week. I saved this segment for the last segment of the show.
Okay.
There aren't a whole lot of people in this town that I can talk about this with, and I know you feel the same way. We've got television stories.
We do. We do.
There are so many great stories out there of behind-the-scenes things from that people would never expect or would never know. You worked in a top 50 or top 25?
Top 50.
Top 50 market at WXII in one of the Carolinas.
Yeah, in Winston-Salem, North Carolina.
Give us a little backstory on XII.
Yeah, top 50 market.
High pressure, by the way.
Very high pressure. I interned there, and so that's kind of how I had the job opportunity to work there. I interned there that summer. They had an associate producer come open, and I interned there all summer. I applied, and so I got the job. They knew me, and so I think that helped. But yeah, coming straight out of college, I was 21, so I graduated Arkansas Tech early. And so I was 21 in a top 50 market. Normally that's a position that you work 3-4 years before you get to. So it's definitely a little bit of sink or swim, a little bit of trial by fire. But I learned so much during that time of how to tell news, how to make decisions quickly. But it's a very different world. I also learned that I don't like working overnights.
Oh, my Lord. And nobody told me that in any of the classes that I took at Arkansas Tech, that if you're going to work in television, you better be prepared to work overnight a lot more than you think you're going to. Daybreak was the worst shift. I just hated daybreak.
Yeah, it's a tough one. I used to go into the station at 11 p.m. and I get off about 7:30 or 8, and that's hard. I was a newlywed, and that's tough. That group forms a family. Like, there is a familial atmosphere on a daybreak show that doesn't exist on any other show. And it's because you have to, because you all become family, because you are there and you can't
surviving.
You can't have any kind of other life, because I found, at least, every time I would kind of switch back and forth between days and nights to be at birthdays or, family gatherings, whatever, it was hard on my body. Like, it was physically difficult to do. And so I tried to avoid doing that. So these people became my family because we all understood what we were going through. But it's tough.
It's interesting that you say that. When this was around 2008, I was working daybreak at Channel 7, and I had to be the one to drive my brother back to the Little Rock Airport to go back to Iraq. He was on a leave, and I was going to work immediately after dropping him off the airport. He was going to be gone for 6 months, and his convoy had been hit with an IED the first time around, so I was not really. And you talk about that family unit, like those folks surrounded me in a time where I desperately needed that, because I get teary-eyed thinking about it now. There are also some of those stories where the people who are watching TV at home were saying, I want to know what really happens. Talk to me about one of those stories of what really happened at XII.
Yeah. So there are several. The one that pops into my head one day is, again, I'm been there just a couple of months, and for whatever reason, there was a scheduling snafu or something. We ended up that day without a director. So I'm the producer, so I've written all the words. I time the show out to make sure that, we have an hour on TV. We are only on TV for an hour. But the director is the person that tells which camera to be ready for which shot and all that. The director wasn't there that day. I'm not sure what happened, but the director is also the one that turns the show on and, pushes the magic button that takes us live. So here I am, 21 years old, trying to figure out how to direct and do this at the same time. We survived it. It was a little touch and go.
Yeah.
There are a few little bumps. We were a one-camera show that day because that's all I could figure out how to make work. But we survived it, and that part was cool. I remember one day, I hadn't been there too long, and I was getting to do in North Carolina, they do a Friday night football. So there, the evening news is at 11 instead of 10. And so that's really cool because the winning football team has already won in the high school for that night. So the winning football team gets to come to the studio for a pizza party. Oh. And so it's the coolest behind the scenes. You don't see, you see all these, football teams from Forsyth or whomever show up, and all this pizza's there, and it's just a fun activity. And you see 2 minutes of that on camera, but then there's this, just this fun hoopla happening in the parking lot. That's really cool. I remember one day we all had to do live training for what happens if your sat truck or your truck is struck by lightning, and we all had to practice. So the way you exit the mobile truck successfully is you have to jump, and then you have to bunny hop out. So we all had to practice bunny hopping that day. Yeah. So there were about 50 of us out in the parking lot bunny hopping down the street. Mm-hmm. So that's a behind the scenes thing that nobody ever saw. But in a life, that's a life or death serious situation. Yeah. Although I'm sure any passerby thought those TV people have just lost their mind because we blocked off part of the street and went bunny hopping down it.
Yeah, I mean, and they were thinking, well, what are they shooting that's necessary for them to bunny hop? We never had to bunny hop. But when 5 News, this happened to the Big Nickel twice, a driver of their satellite truck sank one. They sank 2 of them in 7 years. And so we had to go through training about, how to properly drive the satellite truck. And for those of you watching at home who may not know what we're talking about, back in the day before Zoom and Skype and all of this, you actually had to book satellite time to make your live shots work. And then you would have to put your sat truck where it needed to go and set up coordinates and the whole bit. And there's way too much to get into right now. But we had to go through specified how to park, how to make sure that you have everything done. How to not sink your sat truck was the name of the training because the Big Nickel lost 2 of them.
Oh my goodness. Oh bless. I would say the most stressful thing we ever had. So it was right after Hurricane Katrina, and one of our sister stations, WDSU, is in New Orleans. Well, their people, many of them, their staff had lost homes. They had family things they needed to be worrying about, so they rightfully so were focused on that. And so we sent a crew to WESH in Orlando. WESH sent their crew to New Orleans. All well and good until here comes another hurricane. And this time the hurricane comes up the North Carolina coast. So we're down a crew, we're down a truck, and we're we were a Hearst affiliate, and so we were the Hearst flagship station. So we sent we had 3 meteorologists. We had one in Wesh, we had one in on the coast of North Carolina, and we had one that was doing morning, noon, and night shows locally. And so, like, it was incredibly stressful because we were managing all the sat time bookings for everybody that wanted those reports coming out of the coast. It's tough being in those breaking news environments, but I still sometimes miss election night coverage.
That was the next thing I was going to ask, because election night this last year, I was thinking, I am so glad we're going to be over with this election soon. I don't care who you voted for, it doesn't matter. But that was just pretty contentious as it was. But there was a part of me that was like, man, I really would like to be in a newsroom right now. There's an adrenaline rush that I cannot explain.
The 2 things that I miss most about TV, one is election coverage. My favorite was primary nights because the field was so vast that there was so much hubbub and action as you were, calling this local precinct. And the races felt a lot more community too in a primary. And so I think I liked that. And then the other, I worked for an NBC affiliate, so we had Olympic coverage. And so I was there during the Torino Olympics. And so getting to, produce Olympic Zone and be involved in that, and getting to have Olympic content, and then, being at your desk, and you needed to also watch the Olympics at work so that you could have that updated in the script of what people may have missed. So that was a cool moment.
I remember my second day at 7 as a producer. I did the same thing that you did. When I went to my internship, I found every job that was open on the first day. I saw that sports producer was open. I remember back in the tech TV days, I was kind of a sports guy. And I learned how to do the job during my internship without really saying that that's what I was doing. So that by the time my internship was up, they hadn't hired anybody. They didn't need to. Well, Drew can do it. That's what I did. And I remember my second day as the producer, it was a Saturday War Memorial Razorback game.
Oh, how fun.
And Jessica Dean, who's now at CNN, was going to do a live shot from within War Memorial, but the Razorback Sports Network at the time would not let you shoot in-game footage on a live shot. But they still wanted this live shot in War Memorial, so we shot from the press box. And the president of the Razorback Sports Network came to me and he said, Drew, do not let any football player into your shot or I will fire you on the spot. By the way, the football field is going to be your backdrop.
Oh.
So you're
That's
shooting,
pressure.
right? Yeah, you're shooting in front of the field. Don't let any player come behind you or you're going to lose your job. And by the way, you'll break the KATV contract with the Razorback Sports Network. It's like, oh, okay. I'm 19 years old thinking, all right, this is the worst thing that's ever happened to me in my life. We had a football, but not a football player.
There you go. Safe.
Right. We were absolutely good. Real quick, we'll talk briefly about some of the folks who came out of that department. J.R. Davis is the one that I really want to talk about right now. We all know that Scott Covert is on THV every morning. I watch that show. Go watch Scott. Scott, if you're watching this, you're welcome. J.R. Davis ended up being the communications director for the governor of the state of Arkansas, and now he's doing something in the White House. He was one of our folks.
He was, absolutely. We had several that come out of that program that are off doing incredible things. He's one that I think of. Breanne Davis is a communications program. Yeah. She anchored some of our election shows for us when she was a journalism student there. I also think about people like Adina Strickland White, who has created her own podcast now and founded her own company to do that. And, I think we've got so many stellar. Oh, and I think Jessica Brogdon is, after leaving Arkansas Tech, she worked at the station I worked at in North Carolina for several years, and she's now, I believe, in Oklahoma City. So we've got people literally all over the country doing
Jason
journalism.
Moyer went another way. He didn't go with journalism, but he was brokering media time very successfully. And Jessica Parmain, who was in that program, interviewed President Obama.
Oh, that's cool. I didn't know that.
Yeah, so there's that. So there's all kinds of great opportunities at Arkansas Tech.
I think that program, much like so many of our programs, teaches how to think critically, how to think on your feet, how to be adaptable, flexible. Those are skills that last forever. Yeah. Regardless of, you've gone a little bit different direction, I've gone a little bit different direction, but I think the fundamental things that we learn there will be skills that we'll be able to utilize in whatever we do for the rest of our lives, and I think that's pretty cool.
I think that's a great stopping point, Carrie Harris Phillips. Thanks so much. We've got to do this again.
We have to, please. I'd love to come back.
All right.
We'll
thanks
swap
so
more
much.
war stories.
Oh, I've got them. I know you do too. That's Carrie Harris Phillips. She is the Director of Marketing and Communications at Arkansas Tech University, and that is part of Arkansas Tech Week presented by Alathus Realty. Thanks so much for joining us today on the Spotlight. We've got more for you tomorrow. Don't miss it. If you're in the market to buy or sell your home, give us a call today, 479-968-5668. We'll see you right back here tomorrow.
We see you. Your incredible potential and willpower set you apart. You're first to take that leap of faith. First to get to work. First to solve the problem. No burden should be carried alone. We'll be there. Every step, day, challenge. First is your destiny. We get it because first is who we are.
And welcome to your Game Day Spotlight presented by Alathus Realty. If you're in the market to buy or sell your home, give us a call today. It's 479-968-5668 or cruise on over to russellvilleliving.com. Today in studio, we have Miss Tech, Olivia Battles. Olivia, welcome to the Spotlight.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Walk me through your tech experience thus far. You're a junior, you're
Yes.
Miss Tech. How has it been for you so far?
It's been amazing. So I actually came here my freshman year and I won Miss Tech my second semester freshman year. So I've pretty much been Miss Tech my whole college experience thus far. And about the same time, COVID happened. So I spent most of my sophomore year online and doing things from home. So that was kind of different. It also kind of changed up my Miss Tech experience as well with not being able to do as many appearances on campus, which has been really hard. But now that everything is kind of back to normal in a safer way, I'm able to actually go to football games and meet people, which has been lovely for me.
You came here from Ozark, just up the road on I-40. You get down here to Russellville. What's your favorite part of Russellville so far?
Oh, my favorite part. So my freshman year, I really just ate on campus. And so,
Right.
yes.
Everybody does.
Yeah, stayed on campus, eating in the cath. And so my sophomore year, I decided to branch out a little bit. So the food places, I'm obsessed with Stoby's and Bat Daddy's Barbecue. Those have been my top two. I go there, both of those places, like once a week.
They
So,
are my vices.
Yes, they're so good.
They're so good.
I just had Stoby's cheese dip for the first time. Like,
For the first time?
yes, like last week.
And so walk me through that, your experience with Stoby's cheese dip. Was it not heavenly?
It was amazing. It was like a rite. Everybody was like, this is a rite of passage. You have to have their cheese dip. And I was like, well, okay. And it was amazing. So good.
Have you done the Whataburger thing yet?
I haven't. What is that?
Whataburger?
Oh, like eating there?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been there.
Okay, just
So-
making sure.
Fun fact, my grandpa actually used to work there. Like, he went to college at Tech too. And he worked there, like, the whole time he was in school. So I had to go there.
Whataburger is another rite of passage
Yes.
here in Russellville.
Yes.
Is there anything that really surprised you when you got here that you thought, okay, Russellville, it's a kind of a smaller town, but was there something that really stood out and surprised you about us?
I would say coming here, I was really worried that I was going to only be around the people that I've been with the past 4 years throughout high school, because a lot of people from Ozark come here, and just because it's so close. But I ended up meeting so many new people, and everybody was really friendly, and it was almost like being at home, away from home. So that really surprised me that I was able to branch out and meet a lot of new people and not kind of be stuck in the same clique that I was in high school.
What's your plan moving forward?
So currently I'm in nursing school. My plan is to go into travel nursing. So
Wow.
yeah, so hopefully once nursing school's over, I can kind of start doing that and working towards some internships. But that's my plan right now. And I'm also currently was also just crowned Miss Johnson County 2022. So I'll be competing in Miss Arkansas again this next summer. So just doing pageants and getting scholarships and furthering my education.
Now, you told me earlier that Miss Tech was your first pageant. So
Yeah.
this is not something that you've done throughout high school or anything like that. You got to college, like, you know what? Hey, pageants, why not?
Yes. Yeah, so so Miss Arkansas was technically my second pageant. So
Wow.
this huge thing, and ended up placing top 15, which was a really big deal. So right after that, I went and entered in another pageant because I was like, oh, I want to do this again. It was so fun. It was an amazing experience for me. The scholarships that it offered me it's just been amazing. It's been Arkansas Tech as well. If you're in the Miss Arkansas pageant, they actually give you $2,000 just for competing in it. So they give you a lot of opportunities. The Miss America organization altogether has given me amazing opportunities and helped me a lot.
Your favorite part of Arkansas Tech so far?
Oh, my favorite part? I would say actually working on campus, which a lot of people hate work, but I've really enjoyed working in admissions because I'm getting to connect with students that are here now, but also future students, people who are wanting to come here. And so I kind of get that opportunity to mold their future and choose which way they want to go as far as coming to school here. And that's been amazing for me.
All right. Olivia Battles, Miss Tech. Good luck at Miss Arkansas.
Thank
you so much for being here, and thank you for joining us here on Game Day Spotlight. It's presented by Alathus Realty. If you're in the market to buy or sell your home, give us a call today, 479-968-5668, and go Wonder Boys.